on a whole. And so the information that I'm going to share tonight is coming from not only experience, just the wisdom of God, because I get a lot of my wisdom and my way of living from God and from the Bible. So this is a Christian-based program, but trust me when I say it's not going to be a typical type of church talk. For those of you who are like here for the first time, you're probably thinking, shoot, a pastor, what's she gonna say? Is she gonna preach? And no, we're going to get very practical. We're going to be very open and honest, as we always are. But of course, I have to bring in the spiritual aspect because you can't leave that out. So with that said, let me ask if they and this meeting, it's for all religions. Doesn't matter what religion you are. Like, it does not matter. Can I see if there's anybody here for the first time? I think I am seeing some first time names. I have a new phone and it's allowing me to see like everybody kind of all at once, which is cool. I wasn't able to do that before. So if you're here for the very first time, just type in the comments, say, yeah, me, first time. We just want to welcome you. You could just type it in, say first time. It's always great to have first timers with us. Khadija, welcome. Donnie, welcome to you. I hope tonight is informative and helpful. Nisha, good night. That is my middle name. Samsung, good night. Hi, Samsung. Right. So we have some first timers. Good. I'm glad, right? So it's not too late, ladies, to share the Zoom link with someone and ask them to come on. As Celeste said, first time. Hi, Dion. You can be married, single, in a relationship, or it's complicated. This is for everybody, right? So it's not too late for you, even though you might have seen the form and filled it out and all that. If you know somebody who would benefit from it, go ahead and share the link now. That's fine. So let me start with my questions, and I'm asking you all a few questions before I get into it, right? Good night, Listra. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Denique, good night to you. So let me ask some questions, right? And you all can answer in the chat. As Celeste said again, this is a safe space. Nobody judging you. The only people I know on this call is the people that I know. So if you don't know me, I don't know you. Does that make sense? You know what I mean now? So if I know you, I know you. So if you don't know me, I don't know you. I don't know who you are. So you could be honest. Your business not going nowhere, right? So first question. Let me see how many of you have been cheated on at some point in your life, whether it was your boyfriend who cheated on you or your husband who cheated on you. And if it has happened to you more than once, I'd like to know too. So just type in the comments, yes, I've been cheated on. And if it was more than once, say how many times. Might be tough, right? Or say who, if it was a spouse, right? Okay, so thanks for sharing. Thanks for being honest. So already one person said they've been cheated on. And yes, Donna says yes, she has been cheated on. Yes, twice. Oh gosh. Yes, by a boyfriend. Mila says yes. Mila, I don't know you. Nisha says yes, by a spouse. Gosh, Joanne, yes. Oh gosh, a lot of yeses. Yeah, I think I get a little. Let me keep my comments to myself. I don't even know who Chriselle is. Candida, yes. Wow. A lot of yeses, boy. Oh my gosh, Giselle, yes. Cherry, yes. Whoa. Oh my gosh. More yeses. This is, this is sad. This says something. This says something. The fact that so many ladies are saying yes, and even, ladies with spouses, who were cheated on by their spouse. Wow. Right? So Dion says yes. Okay. And some of you more than once. Let me ask you another question. Does anybody on this call believe that it is virtually impossible or really hard for a man not to cheat? So your thinking is basically all men cheat in some form or the other. If that is you, just type yes, that is me. All men cheat in some form or the other, whether it's where they actually, if you're married, they commit adultery with somebody, or you're in a relationship and they went and sleep with somebody, or they have in a relationship via phone, they emotionally connected to somebody, or they having a affair. How many of you think that all men cheat in some form? Gosh, I'm seeing yeses. This is concerning too. Yes. Oh my gosh. No, I don't think all men will cheat. Michaela says no. Joanne says yes. Kim says yes. Kim. Mila, no, not at all. Keep it coming. If you believe yes, no, I don't think all, right? Chanel, I won't say all men, but based on this stats, it seems to be great proportion. Yes, Pauline, I don't think it's easy for men more, right? Totally. Andrea, totally yes. Lisa says not at all. Right? So I think the yeses have it until they know themselves. Yes, not at all. So it's kind of, I don't know, maybe Sally could tell me. It looked like it's half or maybe more into the yes, but enough for it to be concerning, right? Enough for it to be concerning. Now, let me just say up front, ladies, I'm talking to you as ladies, and we're talking about why men cheat. But let me be real, women cheat too. And I will not ask the question here. I'm not going to do that. I don't think all men do for that woman. Change for that woman. Andrea driving, right? Women cheat too. I think even more so now, because things have really changed for women. Yeah, so I think women, I know women cheat too, and I think more so now. But this is my opinion here, and based on also what I have experienced in counseling with couples. Yeah, it still have some good ones out there, man. The majority, I think more men cheat than women. I don't know if anybody disagrees with that, right? Yes, women cheat too, and you all have, a lot of you all said you've been cheated on more than once in some cases. I say that more men cheat than women. Would you all agree with that? Not saying that the women don't, but how many of you would agree, right? That somehow it seems to be a little more common in men to cheat, right? Agree, everybody's agreeing, right? Yes. No, I don't agree, Leslie, and that is interesting. Yes, agreed. And Nika agrees. Agreed. Most people agree, right? Most people agree. I could only speak for, I have not done any surveys on this. So, I mean, I have researched a couple on YouTube, and in every single survey, the woman, it's more men in every single one. It came up with more men cheating, right? Not in some cases, not by a very big percentage, but definitely more leaning towards men cheating, right? Okay, so I kind of have a fair idea of how you're thinking, which is what I wanted. So that is cool. So I am going to start now. So what I'm going to do, ladies, right? I'm going to go through some of the reasons. Some might surprise you all. Some may not. Some may be just irregular reasons. I'm not going to stick. Let me just say this first, right? They have some men out there, ladies, that they have no intentions of actually doing anything but cheating. That's how they live. They go from woman to woman, they conquer one, then they conquer the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and that's how they go, whether they have a girlfriend or not. Or they're just some men like that. They don't care. It's just about how much, they body count, right? It's just about ego. It's just about lovely, right? You're trying to do my session for me, Donnie, right? There are men like that. So when I start to give my reasons, I don't want you all to get defensive and inside and say, no, darling, you don't have to be sorry. I don't want you to get defensive and say, because you know, because especially if you've been hurt before and you've been cheated on before, you can have a tendency to say, all them explanations she given, all of them man just bad, they just stink and they dirty and they like woman, right? How many of you just want to say that right now? You're thinking, is there no reasons? All of them just dirty. All of them is just a waste of time. They just like woman. They, right? That's what, that kind of, you know, you kind of just want to say that and call it, yeah, don't know. You kind of just want to say that and call it quits, right? What we have in this session for a woman, they just stink and dirty, right? Yes and no. We know it have these stink and dirty ones out there. I'm so sorry, I feel badly referring to the men like that, but it just have them like that, right? So, but I'm gonna give you all some reasons. Here why I am talking to you women about why men cheat, because I believe, ladies, please listen to me. Don't judge me. Don't get vexed and don't hate me, right? I believe that 80% of women do not understand men. They don't understand men. They don't understand how they think. Women think that a man should think just how you reason out things in your mind. You think that a man should be reasoning things that way. That's not true. Men and women are different. They solve problems differently. They think differently. They see the way they view things. It's different. It's the sun, like chalk and cheese. They are different, right? And so I believe that if you understand, and especially the married woman, right? But the ones in a relationship too, and the single ones, if you get to understand men more, I believe it's going to help you in your relationships moving forward. If you understand the why of what they do, I am not making excuses. There's actually no good excuse for anybody cheating. There's none. In this list that I have here, there's no one excuse that I could say, well, you know what, this one, she look for that. She look for that. There's no reason like that here, because nobody deserves to be cheated on, and there's no good reason for it, right? So with that, I'm going to start with number one, right? I think I got like 7, if I'm not mistaken, right? Number one, if your husband, if your boyfriend is addicted to any kind of sexual thing, whether it be porn, masturbation, you find that he's a sex addict. And by that I mean, what's a sex addict? Let me don't say sex addict. He's obsessive about sex, right? Oh yeah, let's call it a sex addict, right? Or, you know, it's the thing, his sexuality, a man whose sexuality drives him then, right? He's all about that sexuality, right? So any man who is addicted to pornography, masturbation, you know, that kind of sexual thing, that man is going to find it very, very difficult to stay faithful to anybody. Doesn't matter how beautiful his wife or girlfriend is. It's actually not about finding a better looking person. In this case, in my number one reason, I'm not saying this is the number one reason for men cheating. This is just number one on my list, right? In the case of lust and somebody who's addicted to sexual things, it's really not about, okay, my wife not satisfied me, my girlfriend not satisfied me, and this girl prettier, so I'm going on to her. Lust, ladies, a man who is dealing with lust will never be satisfied. The nature of the word lust is that it's something that cannot be satisfied. There would be a continual longing for more and better and bigger and rounder and smoother, and it's just lust, right? Sorry to say it like that, ladies, but it's not an indication of you not being enough or not being adequate or not being a good partner and all of that. It's really just the person is being driven by lust, right? Now, I have heard, ladies, many times in counseling couples, married couples who are dating and having issues, right? Especially in the case of married couples, right? I've heard this countless times, ladies, listen to me. If you have a boyfriend or your husband, right? Just recently, actually, a couple admitted to us, the husband admitted to us that he does look at porn, and he says, my wife knows, right? And he said it was like as well, you know, okay, we just being transparent. My wife knows. He didn't say it was like a cool scene, but it was like, well, you know, there's an understanding, right? Ladies, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter what story they give you, what reasons they give you. If your husband or your boyfriend is looking at porn, is addicted to porn, it is going to drive him to lust. It is going to affect you in the bedroom. Now, remember I said I'm a pastor, right? So I believe what the word of God says. And we actually spoke about this last week. This was last week's topic. Well, partially. If you are not married, you're not supposed to be having sex with anybody. But we know that going through listen, nobody care about that again. Nobody. Almost even the people who really say they believe in the Bible, like they don't even believe in that anymore. But I still do. And I still see it as a better way. That's what we teach in our church, because those pages are still in the Bible. Those chapters, those verses, they're still there. Right. Good job, Annika. They're still there. Right. And so that's how you're supposed to live your life. So, however, I do understand how culture has just broken down morals and everything, right? Wait until you're 25 to do what, love? To get married? Anyway, we talk about that later. We talk about another time, right? Okay, so when I am talking about have your boyfriend looking at porn, I'm not saying you and your boyfriend really not supposed to be having sex. If he can't say I do, if you don't ready, if you're not ready to make you his wife, you're not supposed to be sleeping with you, because chances are you all could break up, and then how much partners you plan to have? Does it depend on how many boyfriends you have? That's just not God's plan, right? So, but just putting that out there. So, but I'm saying if you have a boyfriend, you all may not be having sex, right? You all are keeping yourselves, or at least trying, but you know for a fact that he's struggling with the pornography and he's addicted. Or you could tell that he's driven by lust. You want me to give you a really, really simple, two simple ways, right? I didn't see what Anika said. She said she's waiting till 25 to get a boyfriend.
No. She says she is 25. She's waiting till marriage.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I read it wrong. Good job, darling. Good job, right? So let me tell you, ladies, especially if your boyfriend is supposedly a Christian or your husband is supposedly a man of God, if he is looking at pornography, there's a problem. There's a problem, right? And there's a lust problem. If you have a boyfriend, two simple things I'm going to tell you, and even for those of you with your husband, right? Two simple ways that you could tell if your husband is being driven by lust, or your boyfriend. You have to take notice of these things, ladies, right? You know those guys with Roman eyes? Like an attractive girl cannot pass without them. They have to look. If your boyfriend or your husband have to look. Now, I'll go into an explanation later, right? Right. So if they have to look, you know those guys, somebody passing, and listen, I had a friend like that years ago in my early 20s, a good friend. And I tried to lie with her a lot, and she and her boyfriend. And I used to feel sorry for her. And I used to be watching her like, this girl is not seeing every attractive woman that pass. He would look like, he'd be like, he would literally follow them with his eyes. He would not even try to be discreet. And I used to feel really bad. I used to want to cuff him, actually. I used to want to say, I mean, I don't subscribe to violence, but I used to want to say, Breads, your girlfriend right here, you have no respect for her. At least hide now. No, not subscribing to hiding either, But in my mind, I'm thinking, you so driven and so that you can't even hide your loss. You just watching everything that pass and your girlfriend right there. And I know if I see it, I know she's seeing, but she's choosing to ignore it, right? Maybe they have the discussion about it when I'm not there, but I used to feel really badly. If your boyfriend or your husband is always looking at attractive women when they pass by, ladies, he is 99 point, he's struggling with lust. No percentage. He has a problem with lust. Here the other simple way, right, that you could figure out if your boyfriend or husband is struggling with lust, right? You might say, now you could say that. It's an indication that if they're not already struggling, they go in there. Or that there's some breakdown in that area that is allowing them to be, you see the kind of photos that they like on social media, right? When you meet somebody, right? When you meet somebody, obviously you have to get their Instagram and their Facebook and wherever, Twitter, wherever, right? Go through everything, right? Go through their photos, go through every single photo and look for them with all your common friends and things, like attractive girls. Look and see what they're liking. Look and see what they're liking and who they're liking, what type. If your boyfriend or husband, I don't care what you say, I don't care, nobody can argue with me here, is liking a photo of a woman who's dressed inappropriately and is looking seductive, right? Looking inappropriate and seductive, and you put in a big like on that photo. Worse yet, if it's Facebook and you love it, right? Yes, stalk him. Of course, you have to stalk him. Duh. Well, it'll be stalking all your intended. No, when I say stalk, I don't mean you actually follow them and stuff. But you had to do a little stalking now. Let me be real, ladies. You had to check. You had to do a little background. You have to, right? Anyway, yeah, simple like that, right? Follow them. Anika, I don't know about following them. I mean, maybe if you have a strong suspicion, yes, I would say if you have a strong suspicion that your boyfriend or husband cheating, follow them. I'll give you permission to follow them, right? But not just so. You could come across a little psycho if you just, you don't want to be accused of being psycho. Anyway, so back to the two things, right? Remember, I'm still on number one. And what I'm talking about is somebody who's addicted to pornography, masturbation. Oh gosh, make a fake profile. Yeah. Yes, Josanne said she wished she had done that. Ladies, and he used to tell me that behavior doesn't mean he likes them. That not making any sense though. That not making any sense, right? Here's the other thing really liking those types of photos. You're not going to consider your girlfriend or your wife. All right, let's say you're going through your little battle in your mind, right? And you're going through your phone and you're seeing the photos and you're like, wow, whoa, 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 whoa. You will like it publicly. If you're married or everybody know you have a girlfriend, have a little respect for your girlfriend now. You know what I mean? So something, in my opinion, there's a breakdown there. And I believe that any man who's liking inappropriate sexual seductive pictures like that, or even jokes that are inappropriate, sexual type jokes that are inappropriate, or videos, anything like that, and they like those things a lot, they're struggling with lust, ladies. So I'm giving you, my husband like to say he just like the pics. But what in the pics? The pics you're liking is, gosh, yeah, so nobody's saying that liking the pics mean you're going to run down the woman. But what I'm saying, so nobody's saying that liking woman pics looking inappropriate. I'm not saying you're going to, because sometimes it might be a celebrity they will never meet. My point is though, for you to look at a picture that's seductive, watch it, you have the thought in your mind, whoa, she looking hot or whatever, she looking whatever men say, right? And then to go so fast to like it, and you have a significant other. Now, you shouldn't like it anyway, in my opinion, right? Because by liking it, you are saying, I like how you're looking, girl. I like how you're looking smally. I love them breasts out. You see that bum? See how it's looking nice and big there? I love it. I love how you're looking like something to just ravish. That's because a lot of the women who doing this, putting themselves out like that, that's what they want. They want men to sit down. Yes, it is a form of approval. They do want men to sit down and go through their pictures and be drooling. And by you liking, it's basically you're saying, hey, I like what I see, right? So those are two little things, right? The man who's always roaming. If that's your husband, find a way to bring it up with him. Don't ignore it, right? Guys, what you are seeing there is a small fruit, but there's a root, right? There's a root. And most likely the root is lust, right? Lust that he's still dealing with, right? So, or somebody who is very high. So you might be married. All right, let's say you're married, or you're dating someone and they're very sexually heightened. They always want to touch. They always, if you're in any opportunity to get, they have to touch, they have to feel, they have to, right? They may not be having sex, but they're always sexually alert, right? Or your husband, you know, this is a question I've been asked, and I don't know how the married women feel about this, right? Um, I've been asked this question by married people, married women, and even singles. If I think that a married man can be struggling, can have lust towards his wife, right? Or let's say a man is married, or not married, let's say having sex with your boyfriend, which you shouldn't be doing, and he is very, you know, sexual thing, probably like vice and that kind of thing, and he doing it with you, but you sense something more than just him wanting to be with you sexually. It doesn't feel like making love. It feels to you like a man um expressing himself, being able to release something, a man who just has a drive and wants it, you know. So that question has come up to me many times, and I would like, what do you all think, ladies? Do you think that a married man could be struggling with lust, and that could manifest towards his wife? So he's struggling with lust, he's not going outside, but somehow you could sense, right? Now, I mean, this is us being transparent. This is why it's only women are supposed to be on this call. And this is why we say it's a safe space, because I do want to hear from you all, right? If anybody has experienced that type of, that feeling where, yes, my husband is making love to me, he's doing it a lot, but you sense that it's, you feel like, okay, is it possible to feel used then by your husband, where it's not, no, I don't know what you all think sex in a marriage is supposed to be, but it's actually supposed to be love making. It's not supposed to be just somebody saying, hey, I'm feeling, yeah, you know, I just wanna, right? Yeah, that's a part of it, yes. But at the same time, do you feel like somebody, this my husband is making love to me, or is he just satisfying a urge, like a bad rash, like a itch that you just had to deal with, right? How many of you, if you're so bold or transparent enough to say that you have felt like that at times? When he cheats, it's only when I feel it. When he cheated, right, Andrea, I hear you. And that is a common thing that I hear already. Actually, a lot of women started having suspicions about their husbands based on how their things started going sexually. They noticed a difference. And this might be, you know, weird to you, but like I remember one lady telling me that how she realized, or started at least thinking, that something was up. Her husband started to want to do, okay, Donna also said yes when he cheated. Wow. Her husband, they're married for years, but all of a sudden he started, wow, look at that. Wow, look at that. Look at that. Because no, so y'all are telling me in real life, this is true for you. I only saw it based, I've heard people say it before, and based, sorry, on my research today, that was one of the common things, right? It's hard for me to read all the comments, but Celeste would go through them at the end, right? Yes, she told me her first inclination that he could have been struggling with, had another partner, was he started wanting to do weird things in the bedroom that he never used to want to do before. Like, she literally said she felt like he was with her, but he was in his mind with somebody else. That it wasn't okay. So after a while, you know, you become sexually compatible with somebody, you know, yeah, you know how things, you know, for the unmarried ladies, you know, sorry to be talking about all this, thoughts in your mind, but yeah, um, you have a rhythm then, right? The Bible actually says the two shall become one. So after a while, you know what your one feels like, right? And she started noticing that she felt it was like she wasn't even there. And that was her first, she didn't have any other proof but that, what started happening in the bedroom, right? And so a man who is struggling with lust, sometimes they want to get married because they want to have sex bad. This happens a lot with Christians, right? They're struggling. Me? Are you asking me if my husband cheated? No, love. Are you asking me that, Chris? Oh, no, sorry, you're having your personal conversations. Okay, good. Sorry. Though, don't get distracted with the chat, right? That threw me off, and now I don't remember what I was gonna say. What I was saying, Sally, what I was saying.
You were talking about how somebody realized the person was cheating on them because things was different.
Things were different in the bedroom. Oh, right. Okay, right. And I'm right. What I was gonna say that something that happens to Christians who are trying to do the right thing a lot. They don't want to have sex outside of marriage. They get married because they want to have sex bad. Because let's say either one of them or both of them, they becoming, they're starting to lose self-control, and they're realizing, every time they come together, something sexual happens, not sex, but they end up getting themselves in trouble, and it's like it's a lust, right? And they get married thinking that that's going to end the lust problem. If you got married with a lust problem, ladies, marriage does not end that. If you married your husband and you were struggling with lust, if you married somebody who was looking at pornography, masturbating, if you marry, this is another thing now, some of these things might be rough to hear. If you and your boyfriend, fiance, you were sexually active before, but he married you, right? He stayed faithful. Yeah, he married you. You were trying to do the right thing. You didn't make it, or you end up having sex, but you end up getting married anyway. Sorry to say, but that is an indication. A man who's, let's say, supposed to be a Christian and supposed to be following the word of God and supposed to be wanting to do the right thing, if he had sex with you, even if he married you and made you his wife, if he had sex before, it's an indication that faithfulness is an issue for him. I just, some woman might say, well, whew, I get you, boy. I had sex outside of marriage, but he married me. So, it's not so bad. Things could work out, yes, but guys, it's really not, it's a red flag. Even if you and your boyfriend had sex and you end up marrying that same person, it's a red flag. Because most likely lust would have led you to that in the first place. And as I said, if a man gets married struggling with lust, marriage does not stop that lust problem, right? And proof of that is, ladies, eventually they still go outside, right? They still go outside, right? So ladies, I'm really looking forward to seeing all your comments, reading them, but they're going too fast for me to pick up on them, right? So guys, that's number one. That was my number one. Not saying that I think that that's the number one reason why men cheat, but it certainly is high on the list, right? Here what the number two is, and some of you might disagree with me here, but it's especially now, I agree that women cheat a lot more now. I think long time it was a little different. I think now it's close, right? They're close behind. But number two, men generally cheat more because biologically it's actually easier. There's actually less risk. A man could have sex with how much women? 20 women. Likely he likely could get them pregnant, but men can't get pregnant. So right, women, I hope that women still have a little bit of caution, right, where it's concerned. Especially I hope, this is my hope in my heart, especially where it's an unprotected quick kind of one night stand thing, right? A woman might think twice. She's like, oh, I don't. Suppose I don't know this man. Suppose I get pregnant, or suppose, and you might have men don't have that to study, right? They have endless seed. Them don't have that to study, right? And the other thing, kind of tied to that too, ladies, this is not an excuse. Diseases are real. They're very real. Believe me. This is not an excuse, but men are more visual than women. It is easier. I touched on this a lot in the last session. It is easier for a man to be turned on than I think it is for a woman. And when a man is turned on, and we spoke about this last week, there's actually something physical that happens to him, aka he gets an erection. A man could look at something and have a thought, and his body reacts. It is biologically, I believe, this is my opinion, more easy for them to be turned on. Yes, women will quicker have an emotional connection. With men, it's much easier for them to have a sexual connection. And I believe to a point, it is how they were made up. But God's intention was for that attraction and chemistry and all that to be towards his wife. But because of sin and because of where the world has gone to, because of culture, because of the heightened sexual, everything around us is sexual. That is, listen, that it has, the way the world is now has made life difficult for men. Ladies, I'm not picking up for them. It is just a fact. Nobody here on this call could argue with me that a man can be stimulated physically by just looking at something. Am I correct? Am I lying? Is that the truth? Talk to me. Talk to me, ladies. Is that true? Can a man be? No, I'm correct. That was kind of weird. No, yes, I'm correct. You mean right? Yeah, it's true, right? There's and sometimes it can be quick to a physical response, right? Yes, somebody said that last week. They could be turned on by a voice, by just something that you say to them. I'm not saying this can't happen for a woman too, but it's never going to be as difficult for you, ladies, to calm yourself down as it would be for a man, because there's a physical aspect that he, I don't make it, yeah, or they know what I'm talking about. I don't want to go into detail. There's a physical aspect that he just can't, ignore or say, dong boy. He can't just say, dong boy. It just don't work like that, right? So it's easier biologically for men to be turned on. So that is something that we cannot ignore as women, right, ladies? We can't ignore, and I'm going to come back to that later, right? So that's number 2. Number 3, somebody mentioned it earlier. There's some men who are hunters, and this is really an ego thing, right? It's very, they get into a relationship with somebody, they like them, they might even fall in love with them, they're highly attracted to them, but this person is so full of themselves, and they have this sort of drive inside of them. It's actually insecurity and them looking for approval. And a big part of where they get their value and worth from is if they feel that a woman is attracted to them and they could get any woman that they like, right? It's actually a real sign of brokenness and a man who, in my opinion, is not fully developed emotionally. But they're hunters, and they don't necessarily, they might have a woman that they love and respect, and they do. It's not like they're saying to themselves, I'm gonna have a girlfriend, but I am going to cheat on her, or I'm going to get married and I'm going to cheat on my wife. Because of that nature of the hunter in them, and because of their egos, they don't have up any defense. So if a woman come and she flirts with him and she's attracted to her and she persists, he will have to, it's like he'd have to conquer. It's like, especially if the woman actually playing hard to get, where she playing a game, that is actually going to drive him more to want to try and conquer. There's some men who are, and women, there are women who do this as well, who are addicted to falling in love. So what they like is the initial stages. But from the time that feeling of excitement and bubbles, and worse yet, if you end up having sex with the person, it's literally becomes somebody that you are done with, and you don't further, there's no connection. So it was not an emotional connection. It was not love. You could have your person on the side that you love, and in their mind, they're justifying it, right? But from the time the conquest is over, you get them, you realize, yeah, I still have it. And these people, they would make the statement, I still have it, right? You sleep with her, that's it. Don't call my phone. Don't come around my wife. Don't come by my house. Who are you? I'm done. That's it. Away with you. Don't call me again. Put right. You block them. They already got. So these are hunters, and they are men like that. It doesn't mean that the person that they're with, they don't care about. I'm very cautious. I don't even want to use the word love, because love looks like something. Is not a word you just throw around. And part of loving somebody is being committed and faithful to them. And so these men, it's really brokenness that drives them to do it, right? It really is. It really is. Comes from a place of something that they lack in the childhood or whatever. I don't want to go into detail with that. But at the end, ladies, I am going to bring this all together to your responsibility as a woman, right? But that's number 3, the hunter. Number 4, there's the hero. Now, I've met a couple heroes in my life, not had them, excuse me, ladies, one second. I was going to open the door and I'm sweating because there's no AC here. The hero, right? The hero is a real thing. I know a young man who, not a young man anymore, he's an old man now, right? But I knew him when I was younger. He can't help but be the hero for women. And it's always somebody much younger, somebody who need help, somebody who need rescuing. And this person sort of give them, it kind of gives them like a sort of validation, like I'm, you know, like a hero, basically like a hero, right? So they look for people who are insecure, vulnerable, probably in a position financially that they can't help themselves. They look for somebody basically that they can take advantage of, right? And they do genuinely help the person. The person that I'm talking about, he would always be finding jobs for these girls who, you know, they mightn't come from a good background and they're desperate for work, they're desperate for money. And he would help them out, find jobs for them, but then bam, before you know, in a matter of months, he with them, right? I remember, I will never forget, he had given me a call once and he was asking me to help him with a job for somebody. And he started to describe the situation. Now I knew his history, right? And he started saying, you know, it's just somebody I want to help, but she was much younger than him. So in my mind, I said, no way. Nah, he couldn't be thinking he going down the road with this one. No way. This is not the case. So said, so done, right? And then and it would seem as though the person would just keep going younger and younger. And it's all, and the reason is they have a strategy, and they know it is only a young, naive girl that would take that bait, right? But again, it's coming from a place of brokenness. It's coming from a place of these men do need help, but you have to look out for them. But they always seem so helpful. And it's like, just suck the woman in, right? So we have the addict, we just have biology. Number 2, we have the hunter, we have the hero. Number 5 is going to get a lot more practical. Sorry. Number 5 is a lot more practical. And again, this is something women don't like to hear, but I'm here to keep it real and to perhaps maybe educate you on some things that you may not be necessarily aware of. And it just so happens that I have the Bibles back in with this one too. Another reason why men cheat, especially husbands, because this doesn't apply so much to somebody who is not, or even, yes, no, I shouldn't say that. It applies to anybody in a relationship, whether it's a boyfriend or husband. Unmet needs. So a man who is married to a woman, now I know women have this thinking that I make a commitment to you. This is my husband. I'm your wife. No, we set vows for better or for worse, sickness or health, skinny or fat, poor or rich, talking to you or not talking to you, sleeping in the same room or not. This does it. You know, you faithful to me forever. That's how it should be. But what you are doing when your husband has unmet needs, you are stretching him, right? What the kind of love that couples experience is called eros. That's the romantic kind of love, you know, where it comes from a kind of erotic love, yet attracted, right? Agape is also a part of it. When your husband has unmet needs, you are trying to push him into the realm of living in the realm of agape, which is unconditional love. Love should never have conditions. Guys, that's not what I'm saying. But in a marriage, it's different, ladies. In a marriage, you're not only committed to live with this person, to have a mortgage with them, to have children, you also commit your body to them, right? And you're connected to this person emotionally. So with that said, I'm not talking only about sex, but definitely sex. If their emotional needs are not met over a long period, if their sexual needs are not met after a while, if there's a disconnect, No, Kristen, I just wanted the door open. Thank you. Yeah. If there's a disconnect, sorry about that, ladies. If there's a disconnect in any one of those areas for a long period of time, you are putting a strain on your husband, ladies. And well, girls, ladies who have boyfriends, right? Not the sexual part. But if every time, let's say you're not married, right? You have a boyfriend. Every time you all come together, it ends up in it's toxic. It's quarreling, there's no connection, he don't even enjoy your company. It's like a fight to stay together. It's like when you all come together, things might go good for 5 minutes, and then eventually it will end up in a row, in somebody leaving, somebody slamming the door and going home, somebody saying, you know, if that continues to happen over a period of time, it is going to put an emotional strain on the person. And a man has needs. When you're in a love relationship, love, it's supposed to be a lovely thing. If over a long period of time, it's just toxic, it's just pain, it's just, you know, you don't even, you're with the person, you don't necessarily even feel to see them again, you are putting a strain on you. You shouldn't be together if that's what your relationship has come to, in my opinion. But if it continues like that for a long time, you're putting stress on your man, right? So let me read this. This is in the Bible, so that none of you women will come at me and hate me. What you could do is dislike God. I don't even want to say hate God, but you could take it up with God. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1. Hear what it says, right? Ladies, listen to this. Now, regarding the questions that you asked in your letter, 1 Corinthians 7, verse 1. Regarding the questions that you asked in your letter, yes, it is good to abstain from sexual relations. So they were probably writing a letter to Paul, asking him about when it's appropriate to have sex or not or whatever. And he was like, nah, it's good to stay away from sexual relations. But because there's so much sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife and each woman her own husband, right? So sexual immorality was rampant even in those days, ladies, even in the days of the Bible. And Paul is being practical here. He was saying, Paul was saying, I would like to tell all of you, stay away from sex. Abstain for as long as you can. But he said, here what? If I'm being practical, we surrounded by sexual immorality. This is since the Bible days, right? And guys, we know that's the case now. Everywhere you look, almost everything on your phone, on TikTok, Instagram, everything is sex. It's all over. And so we just surrounded by this kind of sexual, you know, tension in the world, right? So he says, because there's so much sexual immorality, and we could say that for today, each man should have his own wife and each woman have her own husband. Hear what it goes on to say, right, ladies? Listen to me. But the husband should fulfill his wife's sexual needs, and the wife should fulfill her husband's needs. The wife gives authority over her body to her husband, and the husband gives authority over his body to his wife. This is the verse I want us to pay attention to, right? Do not deprive each other of sexual relations unless you both agree or refrain from sexual intimacy for a limited time so you can give yourselves more completely to prayer. So it's basically saying, do it if you're not having sex as a husband and wife, let it be something you all agreed for a period, and there must be a reason. This specified, let's say you all say, okay, you know what, let's do a week of prayer and fast and we will abstain from having sex, and you all agree, and that's fine. It could be for illness. You could say, here, what, you probably just had a surgery or something, some reason, right? But it's something that has to be agreed on for a short time. But hear what the Bible says, right? Afterwards, you should come together again. Hear why? So that Satan won't be able to tempt you because of your lack of self-control. I say this as a concession, not a command. But I wish that everyone was single just as I am. Yet each person has a special gift from God, of one kind or another. So I say to those who aren't married or widows, it's better to stay unmarried. But if you can't control yourselves, they should go ahead and marry. It is better to marry than to burn with lust, right? So ladies, Paul is being very practical here. And this is something that you have to take note of. This is the Bible I'm reading. Very practical advice, right? Paul was saying that there are people who, this is 1 Corinthians chapter 7, and I read from verse 1 to 8 or 1 to 9, right? 1 Corinthians chapter 7. I think the version that I'm reading is NLT, New Living Translation, right? NLT. Paul is saying he's being practical and he understands that there's temptation involved in sexual things, right? So you can't, ladies, I'm telling you this, you cannot just say that, make a blanket statement and say, my husband have to love me regardless of what, when, how, whatever. And don't expect that the temptation is not real. Even the Bible is warning that because of lack of self-control, and it's an area where men do have to exercise self-control, and not all may be able to, and all, especially if there's a long period where he's not being satisfied in this area. Paul is saying, don't listen, start back, do all your thing quick. Don't make it a long period, right? Because could bring a strain on him and actually cause him to go outside of the marriage. Now, this is the Bible I'm reading, and I know women might say, but I'm all right. Dan, all right, he had to stay with me, whatever. Why? It's just the practicality of life. So imagine you are depriving your husband emotionally, you're treating him bad emotionally. You're depriving him. Right. You're depriving him emotionally, also sexually. When he come home, he not feeling happy because there's always a quarrel and thing, whatever. And this is happening for a long period of time. And then on top of that now, you're expecting him to still be attracted to you and not go outside of the marriage. No, he is expected to do that. Ladies, please, I'm not saying that, yes, it's okay. But even the Bible is warning that what you are doing is putting a strain on your marriage and on your husband if you are depriving him, right? And not only so you could, and this, I'm talking about sex, the Bible is talking about sex, but this is even possible if there's a long period of an emotional disconnect, right? Especially ladies, if you are continually making your husband feel like he's nothing, you're disrespectful, you belittle him, you don't make him feel like he's masculine, you don't value him, you don't appreciate him, you don't care about his advice. Basically, he can't do anything right, and if your husband is feeling like that for a long period of time, right? That's lovely, Chris. Good job. Let me say this though. No, let me say this, and this is weird, and I believe that it's a plan of Satan, right? I have to say it, that I have noticed, ladies, that it's, well, I can't say for unsaved couples, because I would more by unsafe couples, I mean couples who are not necessarily Christian or believe in the values of the Bible. They're not necessarily trying to live by the Bible, right? But a lot of people who are believers and Christians, they're anxious to get married. They want to have sex. They want to have, right? But there's a problem going on in the marriages of Christians, in that a lot of them get married and then things might start off okay in that area, but then after a while, nothing happening, right? Nothing is happening. And they put an extra strain now on the husband because he's a Christian, because he's a believer. Certainly you can't be unfaithful. You're a big man of God. So you ain't getting nothing, but you can't go out. You just had to stay and suffer, right? It is too common. So like my friend who Chris said, I would never deprive my husband. I don't know if Chris is married. That's the thinking of every person before they get married, especially Christians. But something happens though when they get married. I can't deny it. I've heard it too many times, where things start off hot and sweaty, and then after a while it's like, where's that? Right? So I was saying something very important, right? If you are disconnecting your husband from you emotionally, or your boyfriend emotionally, you don't respect him, he doesn't feel, like you value him, like his opinion is worth anything, those kind of things. If that's happening over a long period of time, he could get disconnected from you emotionally. And here what happens, right, ladies? it's not that he's being intentional to say, well, okay, me and my wife, she don't respect me. I just feel like if I nobody in the home, thing, whatever, so let me go and cheat. It don't happen like that. Here, what does happen? They go to work every day. You don't care about them, right? Right? You don't care about them. You don't, when I said you don't care about them, you don't treat them as you should, like a man, like a priest of the house, like somebody that you care about, love, and you respect, right? And when he go out to work, right? Um, I'll come back to that after, right? Yeah. When you go out to work now, um, there's a young lady, he goes out to work, sorry, there's a young lady who is very respectful to him. A young lady who, let's say, is listening to him. He might want to talk about something and she's showing him interest. She's being caring. She's complimenting him. She's saying things like, you are such a brilliant man. You are so brilliant. You are. And she tell it, right? And then he starts to feel, now all the things that he's supposed to feel when he's talking to you, the way you're supposed to make him feel, this other girl is making him feel. And men are this kind of egotistic type creatures, right? And so when she starts right, and she dropping lunch, going to drop lunch for him, right? Dropping lunch right through cooking, especially if she see you eating, you only eating fast food. And she was saying, nah, she brings some food. She said, look, I'll bring an extra bowl of food for you. And you're like, listen, especially if it tastes good, you're like, whoa. And she giving you all this attention, right? Now let me tell you what's supposed to happen in that scenario, right? The man is not supposed to, he's, how I should say. No, I don't necessarily say that the girl flirting, right? But if any woman comes up to your husband or boyfriend and is flirting, your husband or boyfriend is supposed to nip that in the bud one time, right? He's supposed to be like, okay, yeah, thanks, yeah, cool, and move on. And when next time you see her, he needs to say, especially if it's somebody he's attracted to, they have to be practical, ladies. He needs to say, oh gosh, Pauline, you have to bring up the sweat rice, boy. Oh gosh. Right? He needs to say to himself, I'm going to avoid this woman like the plague. Because see, I appreciate a man. You might get vexed as a woman who say, see, she's trouble. I need to stay away from her. Because if the man finds she's trouble, by that he finds she's very attractive, she being very friendly to him, and he's still allowing her to get into his space like that, that is dangerous. Very, very dangerous for the man. Right? So I'm not saying, lady, so that is what your man, your husband is supposed to do. But it doesn't always happen that way, because remember, he being broken home. He being broken. He in a low place, and he have that need to feel that validation. And so it's really, I mean, it's tough for him because he feeling like nothing. He feeling like nobody. He feeling like a loser. And here it is, I'm getting an opportunity to feel like something, feel like somebody, feel attractive, feel masculine again, feel important. It's hard for a man to resist that. Now, I know some of you may not want to hear that, but it's just, it happens, right? It happens. And so I'm talking here about somebody, a man who is, and it's not, listen, ladies, it is not always about the person being more attractive. It's not necessarily even always that. It's just that so it's not like, okay, the girl in work better looking, or the girl he meets wherever, better looking. Or you know what? It could be somebody he chatting with on WhatsApp. It doesn't even have to be somebody he's seeing, face to face all the time. It could be somebody he's chatting with, right? It's the emotional connection. It's the way she's making him feel. Yeah, I'm sure there's an attraction there, but it's not that. It's not like, well, she better look at my wife, so I'm going to go with her, right? Proof of this, ladies, we see it all the time. You see the guy, even sometimes in Hollywood, you'd see men with beautiful women, and then they go with somebody, and you say, but how you can leave that girl? She dropped dead gorgeous. Or you see it like, he cheat on his wife's so pretty. What more he wants? You say to yourself, put on the AC for me, please. You say to yourself, sorry, what more he want? He have everything. How many times you said that? What more does he want? Right? This man have the perfect wife. So it's not about looks. It's not looking for the perfect looking woman. Sometimes it's about the emotional connection, right? Okay, so ladies, so it's not yet more attraction. Something that is becoming more and more common, filling a void, yes, right? Filling a void, that emotional void. It's just like they want to feel like a man again, and they're not getting that from their wives. Something that's becoming more and more common is women whose husbands cheat with them, but cheat with them on a man. That they were struggling with homosexuality, and the wives never knew, or girlfriends never knew that their husbands were struggling with homosexuality. So that should be for some women, and that's not a comfort, right? But it's not about that's an internal struggle that man is having, right? So he didn't go outside because he's looking for something more attractive. That is something that he was dealing with and struggling with, and you as a woman didn't know, right? That's like a whole other topic, but that's a real thing that has been happening. I've heard too many stories like that. It's like unbelievable to me how many women have gone through that, where they found out their husband was cheating, and then they found out it was a man that he was cheating with them on, right? And so, but that's a whole other talk that we could probably have at some point. But yeah, it's a real thing. Another thing that sometimes could cause a distraction in men. I hear people, I've heard women might say, and I think it's slightly naive to say all on its own, that, well, once my husband loved God with all his heart, once my husband is a serious Christian, and once my husband loved God and he's a good man, or he whatever, or he's a pastor, because he's a man of God, he's a minister, he's a worship leader, whatever, you feel safer that he wouldn't cheat on you. No. All men have something, and the Bible says that there's nothing uncommon under the sun. All men, I'm not saying, okay, you can't put, because your man is a pastor or a minister, a preacher or whatever, or you think he's this man who loved God. Look at David, right? Who the Bible actually said David was a man after God's own heart. And he got himself into a situation, a big, nasty situation too. If you all don't know the story about David, right? But what got David into that situation, I believe, I believe it had a little bit of loss going on there. But David was in a place at a time where he should not have been, where God would have had him somewhere else on a mission, fighting war. And David found himself sleeping and lulling. For some reason, he didn't go with them that day to war, and he was home sleeping, wake up, was walking, clearly idle, because he was sleeping. Then he wake up and he walking around the roof. Clearly nothing to do, clearly idle. And for some reason, I don't know the reason, I don't know if it was ever revealed in the Bible, he decided not to go to war that day. So he was like, walking around doing nothing, and he spot Bathsheba, and we know how that story went, right, ladies? But this thing about unmet needs is a real thing that you cannot ignore, right, ladies? That you cannot ignore. At the end, I want to hear from you all. I want to get your questions. I want to get your comments. I'm seeing comments. I can't read them. If you disagree, I want to hear from you as well. But believe me, it's a real thing, right? So that was number unmet needs. Number 5, number 6, genetics, generational. This is something I think I spoke about before, about something called epigenetics, and I gave a story about an experiment that was done on some rats, right? I'll just tell you the story again. They did an experiment on some rats. I don't remember the story clearly, but I'll say it as good as I could. What they did, they let the rats smell, let's say, lavender. Can't remember what it was, right? And every time they got that smell of that lavender, they would shock them. So the rat would smell the lavender, and right after the lavender, they would shock them. And of course, the rat would go through some pain, discomfort, right? And they would do that over a period of time. What they noticed is after a while, they would let the rat smell the lavender, and not shock them, but they would still have the same reaction. So with the smell of the lavender, it's like they expected the shock, they didn't get it, and they still had the same reaction physically, like if they were shocked. So it still had the same, it still sent them, you know, in a, whatever they would do when they get shocked, run off, squeal, whatever. So that smell of that thing bothered them even without the shock, right? What was even more interested is that they're what do you call a baby rat? A mouse? Whatever. The baby rats, right? That were born from that rat that they had an experiment on, had the same reaction. This is what the whole experiment was about, right? When they let the baby rat smell the lavender without ever being exposed themselves to the shock, they had the same physical reaction, right? And those are rats, but ladies, it's a real thing with us humans as well. We cannot ignore our genetics and this thing that I'm sure some of you all have heard, something called hereditary generational curses. People like to throw that around a lot and make excuses for certain things. At the end of the day, we have choice. But I do believe that there are some people that are more prone to generational things because of their upbringing, because of their family, because of what their father did, their generation. It is very common. It always surprises me though. The amount of times I've had this situation where a woman had her baby at her first child in her teens, like a young teenager, 15, 16, or even younger. And her child ended up doing the exact same thing. Or somebody, I know about 3 or 4 instances of someone getting married to a man 20, 25 years their senior, and their child did the same exact thing, went with somebody 20, 25 years their senior, right? So there are a lot of things that we could trace and we could say they're generational. Men who live a very promiscuous life, they had many women, many partners. They cheated on their wife, they just lived that kind of life. Their sons would be more prone genetically and even spiritually to live in that kind of lifestyle too, unless, of course, that man had a change, right? And that change could only come through God, in my opinion, and really became like a new person in Christ. And now, and not even just that, but taught his son the right way to go. So that, I'm not saying that that's impossible to be broken, but I'm saying if just left like that, many times we fall into a generational trap. I am sure if you look at your life, ladies, and you look at your Nisha, please keep your question, write it down. I'm going to talk about it at the end. If I answer it now, it'll throw me off. I have one more after this, right? If you look at your own life, ladies, I am sure there are things, habits, cycles that you found yourself in, things that you don't like about yourself, but you find it difficult to stop, that if you really trace it, it's something generational that it's affecting you, that either your mother or your father struggled with it. Depression is also something that seems to be generational. Sometimes you have no good reason for the depression and the hopelessness and the negativity. And then when you think back, you're like, my mother was exactly like this. My mother used to be like this all the time. People who struggle with suicidal thoughts and that kind of thing, when you trace back, or even mental illness, when you trace back, your mother had a problem, or your father had a problem, or your grandmother. I see things in me that I know come from both my parents that are not desirable traits. They're not things that I would want to pick up from them or intentionally said, hey, I want to be, but I see it in me and I know that it came from my parents. So it's something that you have to be aware of. You have to be intentional to not fall into that trap of just going with the generational, generation after generation, you just keep in that curse, right? And so it's a real thing. There are some men, ladies, that are more prone to that type of lifestyle than others, right? Which leads me to the next point, which will kind of help with the generational thing. The last one, values and upbringing also play a big part, right? So there are some people, let's just be real. I'm sure I've met people, men and women, who did not even grow up thinking about abstinence. They never grew up. Nobody ever told them it was wrong to have sex. In fact, what their parents might have told them is that don't go and have sex too young. As your school, you study your schoolwork. You stay in school, study hard, get all your passes. And then when when you get through a thing, then you could study man and you could have sex. But don't go and have sex as a young person. So sex for them is something that you do with somebody you're attracted to. You could bounce up somebody like that. Where that is concerned, there's no value system. They were taught differently. They were brought up differently. They were brought up to believe that sex is something that you do for pleasure, right? And your parents would even tell them, listen, when you go out there and fete, you go in this carnival, make sure and protect yourself. You don't want to go and get something outside there. So enjoy yourself, but be careful, right? Do your thing, but be careful, right? That's what they know. So what they know, that's what mommy and daddy teach me. That's what I feel to have sex. Do it, but do it with caution. Choose who you're doing it with. But so that's just their value system. That's what they were taught. So there's nothing that's hindering them, keeping them back. They have their conscience. They're not going against their conscience either. They're doing what they think they're supposed to do. I'm attracted to a woman. We get together. She like me, whatever. We spend time together. We have sex eventually, right? And so somebody like that, who there's no kind of barrier, there's nothing stopping them in that area. That person might meet somebody one day, fall in love with the person, see something special in them, want to marry them, or they girlfriend, whatever. But because they have been so loose sexually, and it was really nothing that they ever learned that, this is what I have to do. It's going to be very difficult for a man like that to be faithful if he gets himself in a situation where a woman is coming on to him, because it's what he was accustomed doing, right? It'd be like no big deal. Another thing that is going to affect a man in that area, if he saw his mother being cheated on repeatedly by his father, and the mother just took it like normal. She went on, it was life as usual for mommy. So he grew up seeing daddy he knew daddy had outside women, right? He would even see them sometimes. And his mom stuck around. His mommy still cook food for daddy. Mommy still take care of him. She take care of the house. She take care of the children. She stick it out for however long. But he know his father to be somebody he taking care of his home, yes. He taking care of mommy, making sure mommy have all the children thing, but daddy have the outside woman. If that's what he saw, and that's what the model that he saw from his parents, he's going to be more prone to see that as an acceptable way of life. I'm not saying that eventually when he becomes socialized outside and he start meeting friends and realizing, wait, no, but all my friends' father do have outside woman, it's gonna, he's gonna start to think about it. And some men would reject that lifestyle and say, I don't want to be anything like my father. But it still is a fight. It still is a fight because it was what they were accustomed to, and has almost become the norm for them, right? So that is my number 7, upbringing. And then you have those who, I talk about the negative side. You have people who've been brought up all their life, being told by their parents that you have to keep yourself for marriage, abstain, hold out, wait until you get married, don't get yourself, and so somebody who grew up with those values being instilled in them over and over, and actually making an effort and saying, you know what, I don't want to, they actually have boundaries too. And you see, they're actually putting things in place to not cause that kind of sexual, situation. You have a better chance with somebody like that who is actually making an effort, and that person is being intentional and keeping themselves pure. A better chance of that person being more faithful than the one who grew up just thinking sex is something to do for pleasure whenever you need, right? That's just practical. How you're brought up plays a very big part, right? And so I am, that's it. That's the last one. Just in summary, I want to say something to you, women, right? Based on everything, and I want you to ask your questions and so on. Based on everything that I said, I don't know if you all realize that throughout all of the reasons, and there are more, right, obviously, that we as women have a responsibility, right? Understanding how the man works, how visual he is, how we, as a wife, might need sexual stimulation, that kind of thing. Understanding how they think, what we spoke about earlier with the physical, all of that. it tells me as a woman, and it should tell you as a woman too, that you have a responsibility, not only to your husband, but to all men, right? And I know that women, this is, if I go off and talking about this now, I might end up getting hate mail and thing after, but even how you dress as a woman can be selfish, right? Because you know the feeling that you get. You know the feeling that you get, ladies. You could be honest with me, or you could pretend it's not so, whatever, right? When you go out with your husband or your boyfriend, and this woman, you're in the grocery, and this girl rounds the corner in a short pants that is basically like an underwear, and her cheeks outside, not these cheeks, her bottom cheeks outside. She have on her belly out, but belly flat, see the belly button, everything in check, looking like, you know the feeling when you round the corner and your husband had to deal with that now. It's one or two things he had to do. He had to start looking on the shelves like, oh, look, hey, you need coconut milk, darling? Look at that coconut milk here. Oh, look at that. Oh, let's go. He had to start to distract himself, right? Either that, or he will stare and he might go into some kind of trance, right? Depending on how she's looking, or they might look at each other. But it's an uncomfortable feeling, because what you really want to do, and ladies, if this is not your thinking, I think something wrong with you. I think you need some help. What I would prefer, my husband don't have to see that, right? Let me ask you, would you not, as a young lady, let's say you have a boyfriend or a married woman, wouldn't you prefer that you don't have to deal with that? Let's say no woman came out like that, exposing herself like that. Would you not prefer for your husband to not be exposed to that? I don't know. Everybody's thinking is different, but I'm asking you all. Tell me, would you prefer that your husband don't have to deal with that? Talk to me. Yeah, of course, you prefer that, for sure. I didn't see that comment that just went there, but right? Talk to me, ladies, in the comments. Would you prefer that you don't have to deal with that? Talk to them. You don't have to deal with the sexy chick. Mila say, yep. You don't have to block your husband's eyes, right? Because poor fella, his intention wasn't to see that and get aroused, or not that he will get aroused by seeing it, but that wasn't his intention. He just going in the grocery with his wife, and this hottie rounds the corner. Miss Hot to Trot, wearing nothing and looking real good, looking better than you could ever look. Ladies, I'm sorry, right? I just painted a picture for you, right? And I'm not saying because your husband seeing a woman looking sexy or whatever, that gives him a right to look at the cheek. But remember, we said men are visual. It's just you can't get away from it, right? And you'd prefer not, right? I'd prefer not. I prefer I go in the grocery and everybody dressed normal, no pressure on my husband, whatever, right? Which is why I don't understand carnival. I don't understand carnival. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but we're not going there, right? Right. So I'm going back to you and the responsibility that you have, ladies. So a lot of y'all, enough of y'all said, you prefer your husband don't have to deal with that, right? So here's your part. You, ladies, you don't be that girl now. You don't be the hottie now. Don't put no pressure on no woman, man. And I know, I hear all your thoughts already. I hear it. But I can't help how I just look. There's what you can't tell me what, right? So you see the practicality of it when you're on the other side, when it's your husband had to deal with Miss Hottie, right? And remember, ladies too, you're not young forever. You might be young and hot and all that now, but life is gonna change. Life is gonna change. Gravity is gonna take place. You're gonna have babies. They're gonna breastfeed. You're gonna have a baby. Your belly gonna stretch. Your bottom gonna hang. Your breast gonna hang. Your cheeks gonna hang. Ladies, I'm sorry. I'm just being practical with you, right? You don't only be married in your youth, right? Most of you all get married in your late 20s. Lucky for those who have their youth with their husband. I think that's a beautiful thing to get married in your early 20s and you have your youth, your best days with your husband, right? But nowadays, that ain't happening. Women happening. The average age of marriage is 28 to 35, right? For women. And you ain't have long after that. You ain't have long after that, 35. You don't have long. You had to work to keep things up, right? And so the greater part of your life, you are older. The greater part of your life, you're in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s. It go have hotties all the time. So what I'm saying to you ladies, right? It always has somebody better than you, hotter than you, right? you put yourself in a position now where you don't ever be that one to cause some other woman, husband to stumble. That's all I'm saying. Don't be the one. You don't be the. So I think as women, understanding the kind of power that we could have over men, you have a great responsibility to clothe yourself properly, right? And I'm not saying become a nun. I'm not saying that everybody have to dress, with long skirts. That's not what I'm saying. I don't subscribe to that at all, right? But I mean, you don't dress to seduce, right? Women sometimes fully well know and they're aware of the power that they have over men with their bodies, and they dress to seduce. In fact, they don't need dress to seduce. Their whole body language, everything is seductive, right? And that is not, listen, that's not you, ladies. That's not where. So I'm not, Olia, don't say I'm not blaming a man being faithful on you being seductive and all that, right? I'm saying it's more pressure on the man. And I don't think any woman on this call could disagree with that. That if you are being sensual, sexual, dressing lustful, it puts more pressure on the man, right? To keep his eyes straight. He would have to be intentional and look away. Because if he stay at you too long, right? And you can't say it's because they're weak either. That's not being fair either. That is being very unfair, right? What men need to do, and I mean, the men are the ones that need to hear this. When they're faced with a situation like that, a woman who's being seductive with them, flirty, they need to do like Joseph did and literally run. And by run, I mean, if you had to physically run, fine. But I mean, do not entertain it at all. But that is, ladies, that is easier said than done, because a man's ego causes him to want, to flee, causes him to want that attention and to feel like, oh, this hot woman on me, boy, ways, right? It's hard for them to resist that kind of attention, right? So, ladies, that is let me just say them over really quick. And the reason why we doing this is so that you could be aware of the part that you play as well, and to understand the men, right? In all cases, in my opinion, they need help. They're sick in their head. Some of them can be narcissists. Some of them can be perverted. A man who is struggling, my advice to you ladies, number one was the sex addict. Somebody's addicted to sex, to porn, masturbation, anything like that. A man like that, if you meet a young man and you realize early in the relationship that he's addicted to porn and he's very sexual, he's very flirtatious, every woman he talked to, you have to kiss, you have to hug. When I say kiss, just a normal kiss. Listen, I thank God for the way my husband is. I could not deal with a man who is that kind of Mr. Charming, and every woman they see there to hug and kiss. How you going, darling, and kiss everybody? And no, I can't, no. I'm not dealing with that. I'm good. Thank God, my husband, he's the opposite, right? He gone to the other extreme. But what I'm saying is, if you get into a relationship with a man and you realize early on that he's struggling with porn, he's struggling with lust, he likes sex, you find him real touchy, or they now start, and now when he touch you with the other, every woman he meets, he had to put his hand on her waist to talk to her, give her, kiss them. Let me tell you something, those are early red flags. A man who's struggling with lust should not be in a relationship. Deal with your lust and then find somebody, because that lust is going to cause your relationship to break down early, right? So number one, addiction, somebody who's addicted to porn, lust, masturbation, sex, anything like that. Number two, it's just biologically the way it's easier for them. Number three, some of them are hunters. They have big egos. Number four, some of them want to be a hero. Number five, unmet needs, which is a serious one. Number six, generational. It could be epigenetics, generational. Number seven, their values and their upbringing, what they were taught, what is the norm for them, the things that they've been taught to be normal, and how they've been socialized in their home plays a very big part. So that brings me to the end. But ladies, I want to hear from you all. I saw so many comments and questions that I was not able to address.